I'm Diego Cortez.
Adam Schoenfeld.
Welcome to The Scoop, brought to you by Full Tilt Poker. Bill Edler just emerged on the scene, won a World Series of Poker bracelet, a WPT tournament, a bunch of other tournaments, tons of cash, and doesn't fit the normal profile.
He's a trained lawyer, but he decided to become a prop player instead.
And good guy, and we're going to find out more about him. I mean, besides all his accomplishments, I think he's managed to stay a little bit under the radar as far as...
I got to get inside this guy's pelt, crawl around a bit, see what he's thinking.
You get inside his head.
Yeah.
I'll just sit back.
All right.
So we're familiar with all these young internet stars that emerge at age 18 and a half and start winning all the championships, but you really
I call
came out
them
of...
punks.
Yeah, that's another term. You came out of nowhere, in a sense. I mean, you really were kind of an overnight success, even though you're more of a advanced age,
To say the least.
fellow like ourselves.
That's a kind characterization.
So was this a case where the light just went on, or you were just doing other things and then suddenly really just started focusing on big tournaments and winning them all?
And winning them all.
Well, for a period there, it seemed like...
Right.
Well, it felt like it in 2007, but
Yeah.
2008 has been humbling.
But in 2007, you won a WPT and a World Series event and heads-up event, a whole bunch of events. But before that, really, I don't think too many people were familiar with you or your name. So what's the story?
Yeah, I started playing in the summer of '05 tournament poker. I had been playing poker for about 10 years, but cash games on the net. That's about all. So finally, some of my close friends are some of the better-known players, and everyone, of course, knows Eric Lindgren, and Gavin's a good friend of mine. And if you know these guys, you know that if they can do it, I can do it.
That's the logic.
It's pretty obvious.
If Gavin Smith
There's
is
nothing
winning,
special about Gavin, right?
Gavin's winning WPT events.
And,
So did you have
That's
immediate
not at all true.
success? Was it a case where you came in and right away started having success, or what?
Well,
was
I started, as I said, I started in the summer of '05. I won a couple of those little, remember those Ultimate Poker Challenge tournaments
Yes.
they had at the downtown?
The Union
At the
Plaza.
plaza.
At the plaza,
I
exactly.
had a fist fight with a bum in front of the plaza. That's a whole separate matter, but that's
How'd it go?
I won.
Oh, good man.
I was barred from playing blackjack at the plaza because I increased my bet from $5 to $20.
That's true.
Literally, I was waiting for a poker tournament to start. This is years ago when they used to have these satellites for the main event at Binion's,
Yeah.
and they had these four table satellites. So it was $250 or $300, so it was more reasonable. And I was waiting, but you had to get there early because they fill up. So I was there like an hour early, and I said, I'll just play a little blackjack, but I'm not going to really play. So I just bought it for $100, bet five, and I'm keeping a little count, up to 20, and a guy came over and just escorted me right to the stage. Anyhow, sorry to...
You just derailed the whole story.
the
So
tangent.
the Ultimate Poker Challenge
There
down there.
can't be enough Union Plaza stories. Is that place still open?
It is.
Oh, yeah.
It's lovely. I recommend it to everyone.
They keep...
Subway subs. That's right.
Yeah, boy, at the breaks you had that, or McDonald's.
They're
and
frequently
then,
announcing
can't
like a
remember.
refurbishing, and it's like a new carpet they got, or they changed the light bulbs, but not much further. than that.
I've stayed there on more than one occasion.
Yeah.
I think ashamed to admit.
In the old days, when the tournament was at Binion's, sometimes that was the only place that had rooms. So that was your debut at the...
Right, so they had those. I won a couple of those, but they were really small fields. I'm pretty sure I remember the fields. I think the first was 63 and the next was 33.
Yeah, they had like 30, 25, 30, 40
It was, it
people.
was local pros. It
Right.
wasn't the easiest.
Yeah, still-
33, but anyone can be lucky in a field of 33. So, but that was good because my personality goes well with tournament poker. I enjoy it. I don't think it's for most people. In fact, I wouldn't recommend it for most people. But for me, it's a good fit. And having a little success, even that modest success early, helped stoke the fire and made me want to continue to play.
Tell me what you mean when you say you don't recommend it for most people.
Well, if you're all about money, if money is your goal, I don't mean all about it, but if that's your primary goal, I just think in poker, in the real world, there's easier ways to make money, but if you can choose poker, I just think you should play cash.
Yep.
I think you should play tournaments occasionally just for fun, maybe for a big score.
Tournament's going to be a roller coaster, and you're going to be...
It's an incredible roller coaster. There's no player who doesn't have his ups and downs, and it's tough.
There's almost no player who's got the bankroll for it these days, too.
That's a good
So
point.
you're always
If you
gonna
try to
be,
play the major circuit, buy-ins could be easily $500,000 in a given year, and so some people have backers or whatever to get through that. But I still think if you're trying to make money, it's just easier to beat the cash games. Your life is probably more pleasant. You're going to win more often.
It's definitely steadier.
It's steadier. It is very reliable.
I remember Chris Ferguson telling me once that he'd gone 18 months without a significant score. And this is one of the greatest tournament, if not the greatest tournament player of all time. Right. And then he won his 5th bracelet maybe the next day against you. But
lucky he had an easy opponent.
Yeah.
No, but also psychologically, what you're saying is if you're a live game player, you're proficient, you're going home happy most days.
Mm-hmm.
Win a little or win a lot, but if you're even a great poker player who's playing tournaments exclusively, 80% of the time, 90% of the time, you're going to be unhappy. And even when you're happy, even when you cash, you take some beat. That's the difference between really getting to the big money. I mean, it's rare when you have that great moment.
It also depends on how you view them. Might not sound believable, but I swear to you, I don't know, I just grew up this way. My father maybe instilled it on me, but when I play a tournament, I think I want to win it. And I swear to you, if I'm 5th, with a nice check, I'm distraught.
Of course,
It's easier emotionally to miss the money. Yeah. But actually, any tournament I play, if I don't win, I leave unhappy. I don't think, oh, wow, that was terrific. I finished 5th.
Right.
Somehow I have some sick disregard for money, even though I'm not wealthy. So it's not... I'm not saying people should be like me. They shouldn't. It's a weird worldview. But for me, every tournament I play that I don't win, I swear I leave unhappy. And if was in the first round on a bad beat, then I can kind of laugh and I don't leave that unhappy. But the deeper you get, even if you cash, especially if you lose because of a mistake that you made or poor play, that's very hard to live with. And of course, if it's a bad beat, then that's not so lovely either.
There's no good exit.
Yeah, the best exit I think is a bad beat. The worst exit
you have
is
the
when
moral
you
high
think
ground.
Well, I don't lose sleep when I feel I was unlucky, but the difference between bad play and being unlucky is not as clear cut as a lot of people think. Even tournament poker players, they tell themselves they were unlucky, and perhaps they just didn't have the right strategy. I would argue that it's very difficult to know just that you were purely unlucky because someone else in your seat would have probably played a lot of hands a lot differently and things might have gone
and not been in the position to get unlucky. There's a million factors like that.
Interestingly, Adam always tells me that he's always unlucky, that he's never
I've
made
never
a bad
said
play.
that in my life.
Every tournament, what happened, Adam? A good finish. I was playing great. I played every hand perfectly.
You see the kind of abuse I take here? I've never said that.
You mentioned Gavin and Eric
unlucky.
as influences on you in addition to being friends. I mean, they have pretty different styles of play and even personality-wise. Have those guys influenced your poker playing to different degrees, or is it a melding, or just happens to be that they're supportive and friends, but that you've got a different approach?
It's interesting considering how exceedingly successful they both have been, and I'm not naming some other friends who are also top players, and people will probably be surprised the small degree to which we discuss poker and strategy. It's probably a big missed opportunity. It's not Eric's style to do that. So unfortunately, can't pick his brain, and his brain's probably the best one to pick. He's got seriously.
Gavin's probably drunk most of the time.
No. Gavin hasn't had a drop in a while, and it's not that way. I was going to get to Gavin and say that I probably talked more poker with him than with anyone else. And he is funny for a guy who just comes across as your average guy and is the biggest sweetheart in the world and just would do anything for anyone. He is a real man by a definition, by a reasonable definition of what it is. I love the man, but a lot of people think he's like every man and he's kind of maybe simple-minded or that. He is not.
I never thought he was simple-minded.
Well, he's not your average Joe in almost any respect.
The thing is, he thinks about poker. I mean, he
does,
but has
for a guy who's not generally articulate with some huge vocabulary of some PhD or English major. When he talks poker, he's articulate and he's right.
I think that's what surprised people.
I love talking poker with him.
He presents kind of the happy-go-lucky image at the table, but he's analytical and thoughtful. And
I think one of
competitive.
I think one of the keys to Gavin's success is that he projects this wild man image, but his play really isn't wild man. I mean, he's calling a lot more than most people as opposed to raising. And
well, he has his own style.
Yeah,
I know no
really
one else who
does.
plays like it.
Yeah,
It depends on what you think wild man is. If your definition of wild is limping
Like playing a lot
at
of
a full
hands.
table with Jack Deuce suited under the gun, then he's wild. I mean, he does do that. But he's not making these enormous bluffs or blowing away his chips.
Usually,
and
if
you're
it's
right.
a giant pot, he's got a giant hand.
That is
I mean,
exactly
so in
right.
that sense, he's not wild. But
That's
he'll
exactly
play
right.
hands that I can't play in positions I can't play them.
And he'll make calls that I could not make.
And he just makes smooth calls when I would think it necessitates a raise.
Yeah.
But I'm not criticizing because who could criticize with his results?
He's the ultimate loose small baller who really is
That's
playing a lot of
well
hands
put. That's
and
what he is.
finding the spots to make plays or to get paid off. And
And
so
he's
forth.
excellent at playing the player, which is just it's said so often, but I still think it's underrated in poker how much you have to play so differently against one guy versus another, and he is just terrific at that.
So talking to him, you haven't necessarily adopted.
No, we don't play very well.
Repertoire.
We don't play similarly. We have very different general big picture theories about poker, but we talk about hands and people. It helps. It helps. I love to hear what he has to say about people.
Now, I was interested to find out that you were a prop player, and then this was upon graduation from Bolt Hall. You then decided to parlay that into a prop career.
Yeah, I was going to say the same, which is very interesting that we find two avenues these days. You've got these young guys who start playing in college on their computers and start making a lot of money, and they just bypass the whole professional ranks right to poker. And then you've got guys who've been very successful in their careers or moderately successful in their careers and then kind of ended up playing poker. But Bill pursued a top-grade education and then seemed to then proceed directly to poker, which is kind of a whole different...
Just from the outside, you have several $100,000, if not $500,000 in legal education, and then you decide to become a prop player at Casino San Pablo.
Right.
Talk us through that.
Berkeley's a state school. It wasn't as bad as that sounds.
All right.
But I had worked in the real world until I was 30, and worked at Pacific Bell, the phone company in California. I was in finance for them.
I think I still owe them money, by the way, because when I moved...
I was going to talk to you about that later, but you'd probably prefer off camera. Anyway, I enjoyed my time there, but knew I wasn't going to stay there my whole life, or chose not to stay there my whole life. I see people, 35, 40, and they're already worried about their pension and really tied in, and I just didn't want to be that guy. So I went to law school thinking I'd find something in the law that I would love. And while I really enjoyed law school, I pretty quickly learned that I wasn't going to want to practice. But I did finish and get my degree, but I knew I wasn't going to practice. I never took the bar. And while I was in school, I played a good amount of poker. There's a casino called the Oaks in Emeryville, which is near Berkeley. And
for a long time, it was like the place in the Bay Area.
Yeah.
But
it is before the big Bay 101 and some of the other peninsula ones.
right.
Anyway, so after near the end of my schooling, my third year of law school, my final year, I spent the first semester abroad in Spain, which was terrific. And I decided I'm going to try to play some poker this next semester, and maybe that's what I'll do after school's out. And I wasn't great, but I was a winning player, and decided to try to get a prop job to help support me. And that's where the group at this little place, Casino San Pablo, probably not well known to anyone outside of the Bay Area. Some of the players that have come out of that are fantastic players. Not all big names, but I'd put the talent, the 10th best player out of there, I'd put up against the 10th best player out of Commerce. Out of a lot of different players. There were a lot of good players, and so I learned from. I didn't really learn much from Eric. He came a little bit later, but the Keikwan brothers, Matt Lefkowitz, people like that I played with, and they were
Prahlad
tough.
played there, didn't he?
Prahlad came from there.
Prahlad
Exactly.
Friedman played there, and I remember going down there to play, driving all the way to the Casino San Pablo.
When I lived in San Jose, I wouldn't even go to the East Bay.
Yeah, well, now there's no reason to, but for a while when Casino San Pablo opened, it was actually like the one kind of brand spanking new casino in the Bay Area.
Physically a lot nicer than the Oaks.
Yes.
And for a while it had some pretty good games.
Talking about your style, I mean, we were at the same table in the main event a couple of years ago. It's very enjoyable. And I was impressed by the fact that you're not easily classified in terms of style. I mean, we've talked with a lot of guests about guys who are small ballers and, guys who are just adamant about the small ball approach, like Daniel or Phil. Other guys, we've had Hoyt on, and who
he would not be here.
who would not be guys, who are power poker guys, or before the flop
Specialists,
John Juanda. But you really, we only played the 1 or 2 days, so maybe it's not enough information. But it seems like either you have a melding of styles, or I just caught you when you were. How do you characterize your approach?
Well, I wouldn't. I'd prefer to leave that for others to try to do.
How do you play? Give us a breakdown of
how can I beat
hands
you?
by position.
Well,
no, but it did seem like you really
that's
are
interesting.
mixing it up more than most people.
Let me say this. I believe a beauty of poker is that you can choose your style for what's appropriate at the time. So I've said this before. I hate to repeat myself, but it's just my best analogy. If you're Shaquille O'Neal, if you're born with that body and you're a basketball player, you're not going to be a point guard. You have to play that style. Mm-hmm. And if you're Dwayne Wade, you're going to use your quickness. But in poker, although maybe we have different styles we kind of prefer to play, there's no reason I can't be a rock one day and a maniac the next day, or play small ball now and put a lot of pressure on later. And it doesn't have to be day by day. It can be hand by hand, or just as you see is appropriate based on your stack and the play at your table and where you are in a tournament. All these factors, you make a decision on how to play, and I like to think that I can play the different styles. Mm-hmm. And, maybe I play some styles better than others, but I try to. I do make a big effort to play whatever style I think is appropriate for my chip stack and for the tournament status. I know there are people who've played with me that just think that I'm some middle-aged rock guy. Mm-hmm. I played with him for 4 hours and he didn't play a hand. There will be people like that, and then there will be others who think I'm Gavin. And so I'd say it would be hard to say what my style is overall, because it can change.
Well, I mean, what impressed me is that it's one thing to adjust to the table. I mean, any good player, no matter how much he or she believes in a certain style of play, if you find yourself with 8 timid, inexperienced players, you've got to take advantage of that. If you find yourself at a table with a lot of over-aggressive guys who are, putting a lot of pressure pre-flop, you're going to adjust to that. Mm-hmm. You need to if you're any good player. But another thing is, as much as people talk about shifting gears, people don't shift gears nearly as much as they should, in all likelihood. And whatever you were doing, it just seemed that you really were making an effort not to be pinned down in any one groove or gear.
Well, I maybe I got a little lucky that way. I mean, I don't know if I go out of my way to mix up my game so that I can't be read necessarily, but you do want to change your game based on what your current opponents are thinking of you. So if they've seen you do something, you better realize that that's in their head and then play accordingly.
You had one hand that I've been waiting all these years to ask you about, and especially now I don't expect you to either remember it necessarily or answer. You were the chip leader at the table, and the blinds were pretty small relative to most people's stacks, and in particular your stack. Mm-hmm. You were under the gun. You might have had 700,000. The blinds were maybe 5 and 10,000, something in that range. And under the gun, you went all in for the whole 700,000. Now there were a couple people there who probably had 400,000 or 500,000, like myself, and I always wondered, how can this be a good play
with any hand?
Well, and
that's what you're asking, right?
I was asking, well, if you've got a vulnerable hand, all you need is, as unlikely as it is, for one of the other 8 guys to wake up with something. Mm-hmm. And if you've got a really strong hand, yeah, if you wakes up with something, then the advantage is you're going to get it all in without any further fuss. But by the same token, you're really going to eliminate some hands that you might get action from. It was mystifying to me. Do you remember that at all? Is this in your repertoire?
In
the main event.
This is the main event 2 years ago.
Yeah.
You finished 23rd, I'd point out.
So this is not this is not common in your repertoire, apparently. But it was very interesting. I made a note and I thought, I'm going to think about that, because, like I say, your play was excellent. And obviously this had to fit into something that was going on and that you felt it made sense. It wasn't just hey,
it wasn't that I just wanted to leave.
I'm drunk, you know.
I don't remember the hand or the circumstances. I'm sorry to disappoint.
Can you come up with any possible explanation?
I have one. I saw a guy do that this year, and we were, day 3 in the money at the main event, and he got moved to our table. And he didn't have a monster stack, but he had a significant stack, and he moved all in for a huge, many multiples of the big blind. And what happened after that was, on that hand, everyone folded, but he then started to get a lot more action because people thought he was a maniac. So I think that might be a metagame play where it's not... You probably have a hand that wouldn't mind some action in that hand, but you're trying to develop a maniac image. I don't know if that was your thoughts, but I saw someone do that.
That might have entered into it. Might well have entered it. I can tell you an interesting similar hand that I was on the other end of.
All
Be
right,
interested to hear what you both think. Or right before that main event, I was at a final table at Brigada, and it was not the big one, but I think it was like the 5K. So the first place was a good amount of money.
Yeah,
Big enough.
I was gonna say.
And so there was the 10. We'd just gotten back from dinner, 10 people final table, and I remember I was chip leader with a little over 600, I think. First hand dealt, literally. I'm in the big blind. It's passed to a guy on the blind, on the button, with whom I've never played one hand. The tables are just combined. Right?
Zero information.
He has 390. I think I had 6 something. And he shoves it all on the button.
Right.
And small blind folds. I looked down at 2 queens.
Right. You're saying before you look at your hit cards.
I knew you were
I
going
hope
to
I don't
queens.
have 2 queens.
Right. Aces or kings, there's no decision, right? Ace king may be an interesting one, but I didn't know what to do. I ended up folding, and under the thought that I didn't know the guy. He was older than I was, so I didn't think he was likely to be a total maniac, and I thought maybe the money really meant something to him. I thought, this could even be he was older than I am.
That's old if he's older than any of us.
The top 1% age.
We're all the same age, basically, but yeah, we're old.
So true. So anyway, I thought it might be, it could even be scared aces, and I just didn't think it was 9s.
I would call.
Well,
What's funny is I'd call him because
Grinder was at my table. He laughed at me when I told him. He's like, you couldn't believe what I folded.
The only reason I say it is because
because
of the stack sizes, because you would still be in. But if it was going to bust you, then that's a different matter.
Yeah, but I felt like I was in good shape,
right,
as the chip leader, and I didn't want to just, maybe he has ace king or something,
that makes sense
or
too.
whatever, and just.
So he never showed her.
If I win the hand, it doesn't necessarily win me the tournament,
Right.
but losing it, as you pointed out, doesn't lose it for me, but it loses my big advantage.
And the guy didn't show or anything?
He didn't show. Grinder laughed at me. Grinder talked to him afterwards, and the guy says, "I swear to God I had aces," but
You
believe that if
some
you
old
did.
guy, yeah.
But I don't know if he did or didn't. I'm not saying that makes my laydown right. I don't have an opinion as to whether it was right or wrong, but it was.
It is credible that he did.
It's funny that when you ask people what they would do, the different ranges they put this guy on. Some people think, that it was a scared large hand. Other people are like, no, you're an idiot. He's got some medium pocket pair. And some people are like, the only possible hand that could be correct with is ace king. I've heard that too, so it's funny.
He might have had jacks. How people get terrified. It's funny, like jacks terrify people.
Right.
And
yeah.
But
I just laugh because playing, and of course, so many crazy things happen in the main event. And I don't play that many tournaments, so the main event is the source of most of my anecdotes.
I hear a lot about it.
But at the main event, this guy was playing quite well and always raising the same amount, which I think is an important thing unless you're really mixing it up. And then all of a sudden, he opened the middle position for like 15 times the big blinds, and everybody folded. And then he showed 2 jacks. He goes, "I hate this hand," and he mucked it. And I thought, well, it's true. To your point, I mean, the jacks make people go crazy.
Not that that's correct, but it's odd that the way people have. It's common wisdom that jacks are bad, tough to play, so people play them.
They are
crazily. Yeah,
somehow makes people play them even worse.
Even worse, right?
Yeah, ironically. But the thing about the aces, I think, is credible in that I know I've mixed myself up in not giving people credit for a hand, thinking, well, it'd be absurd for them to play it this way. And what's motivating it is the fear of having to make any more decisions, having to deal with any changes. They know they've got the best hand at the moment. They don't care about maximizing how much they earn. They just want it over with. And
There's some people who are
got to be sensitive to
poker
that.
players. There are other people who are really scared and might do that, and there are other people who go the other way. They get aces, and the last thing they want to do is raise and take the blinds. So they raise real small, or they always limp with them because I only get this hand once in a while, and I'll be damned if I just steal the blinds with it.
Yeah, well, exactly.
But some people fall in the other category. I get this hand cracked all the time. Come and get it if you want to call. Otherwise, I'll just take the blinds. Fun.
Very good. Bill, it's been a pleasure to have you.
Pleasure's mine.
And
thanks for coming in.
We've got someone in our own age category coming in.
Our peer group.
You're too kind.
Peer group.
Can the viewers tell who the eldest of the three is? It is I. We've traded him.
But we'll be looking for you in all the tournaments.
Thank you.
And your frequent sightings by paparazzi. And
continued
and so
good luck.
forth. Continued good luck. Class guy and good guy in poker. Thanks, Bill.
It's a pleasure. Thanks a lot, guys.
Thanks for joining us on The Scoop, brought to you by Full Tilt Poker. Write to us at The Scoop at cardplayer.com. Look for us on Card Player TV. New episodes every Friday.
2 bracelets. Awesome.
Well, these aren't easy to win. I remember this one like it was yesterday. My opponent had me down to my left. Sorry. Anyway, it's down to my last few chips. So, I had to call.
We play at FullTiltPoker.com.